We sang that quite a few times in the Christmas story and so on, and I thought it would be a perfect song for what I was speaking about today. I'm not a theologian. I haven't been to Bible college. I hadn't been to seminary. So when I speak, it's mostly personal experience, and that's what you're going to hear today, is my own personal experience for 52 years of walking with the Lord. And lots of ups and downs. We went down a lot of rabbit holes. And we failed and we succeeded, but we stayed true to what we felt the Lord was calling us to do, Bruce and I. So we are to be carriers of the light. We're called to be that as Christians. And Jesus is that light. He's the creator of light, and he wants us to carry the light into the world to give hope, grace, and love. Matthew 5, as all of you know it so well in the Sermon on the Mount, it's we're to be the lights of the world so our good deeds will shine and we can bring praise to God. So that's what we are really given to do in this world, who needs the light of hope and grace and love so much. I like what Jesus said was, I could judge, but I'm not going to judge. We're not judges. We are to give the light, and we're to give hope, love, and grace. And I don't know if many of you have realized this over your lives, but life is not a Hallmark movie. And it's never fully resolved. We can't resolve our lives while we're here. It never resolves itself. There's so many moving parts as different stages of our life happen that we cannot resolve it all. So it cannot be resolved. But we are still to be the lights in the world for Jesus. And it is a walk of mysterious faith. And I can tell you, the more I've walked, the more a mystery it has been to me. And I don't know if you felt the same thing. This is mysterious. This is hard to understand. This does not make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And there's no answer and there's no resolution in this. So I wanted to share with you where I first came to the light. And I was married when I just turned 19 to Bruce, and we shared a brain at best. And so we thought it'd be a good idea, let's just have a baby. That's a good idea. We could do that. So we did that, and I was a complete and utter mess. And when we weren't Christians, we weren't going to church, we shared a brain, not well. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what we were going to do. He was still in school. It was unresolvable. And then this baby came into this world. And I lay there in the hospital ward with my new son, panicking. Oh God, what did we do? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to act. I don't know what kind of mother I will be. And I felt sorry for Matthew laying there. And then it was in the day of 4 beds in a ward. And I saw the light. And it was a cigarette that was lit in the girl kitty corner to me's bed. And she was smoking, like you could smoke in the hospital then. And she was lighting up, and she was reading her Bible. And I thought, whoa, this is strange. So I said to her, her name was Linda Moon. I said to her, so I introduced myself, and she said to me, I said, it seems strange to me that you're smoking and reading a Bible at the same time. And I said, it just seems strange to me. I think it's fine. And she said, well, I'm a mess. I'm a real mess. And she said, I'm trying to find a way in my life. And someone told me that there is this way. So I'm reading about it and all that. So I said, light me up. And so we had our cigarettes together, and we had our ashtray, and the nurses came in and out, and we smoked, and we read the Bible together. And then after that, we became friends. And for the time I was in Toronto, she and I decided to follow the light in a very messy, crazy way. But we found light for ourselves. And then, I'm not telling Bruce's story, but a year later, he, an atheist at the time, came to know the Lord as well, and we never looked back. So that's my beginning. So it's kind of, I didn't find it in church. I found it in a hospital room across from an ashtray. So that's where my light came. So that's my beginning. But over the years, I have found that the people that are able to carry the light have certain qualities about them that really help them to give grace, joy, and love to people. The first thing is they give you a seat at their table. They actually invite you in to their lives, and they give you a seat at their table. And I'm going to share with you more my journey with that myself in a few minutes. The second thing is they sit with you in your pain. They don't judge you. They don't give you a pamphlet. They don't tell you how to get over it. They don't give you a how-to. They sit with you in their pain. And I can look at faces right here that have come to see me today who braved the snowstorm, and they have been some of the people that have sit with me in my pain. The other thing is they take you with them. They come and get you. They take you from your dark place and they get you out. Because when you're in a dark place, you don't want to go out. And so they come and they get you, and they take you with them with no preconditions and no expectations. And 100% of being a light carrier is turning up, showing up, and being consistent when you're giving the light to someone else. And today I'm going to share with you some of the light carriers that have come into my life over the years. And I'm going to start with one who came to me when I was 6 years old. And that's why the red umbrella's here today. And I'm going to just read you a little story about this woman who came to me. When I was growing up, my imagination was always much more creative than my reality. I always liked to see myself as a world-famous circus performer, a princess, or an explorer. The truth of the matter was I was not athletic. I walked around in an outlandish Tony perm, and I hadn't been anywhere. In my mind, however, I was all I could imagine. When I was about 7, a friend of my mother's took a special interest in me. Her name was Florence Wilcox. She looked sort of like Jane from the Beverly Hillbillies. Remember Jane with the brown, with the explorer hat on and everything? And she was a nurse at the hospital where my mother worked. Florence had never married and loved bird watching and hiking. She asked my mom if I could accompany her when she went out in nature. I loved being with her. We were exploring. She had binoculars and bird calls and everything. I knew that Florence liked me. And not everybody liked me. I was a little annoying. But anyway, she liked me. And that she understood my young imagination was part of me. And I can't tell you today one thing that we talked about. We were just there together. At the same time, I went into hospital to get my tonsils out. Well, in the 1950s, that was an ordeal. It was during the time when ether was used to put you out. I remember waking up and feeling so ill and sore, it was hard to imagine anything about being sick. In walks Florence with a get well gift. It was a red umbrella. Not a practical black one or a serviceable canvas model, but a bright red silk umbrella. I was over the moon. I felt like a princess and a circus performer. And I'm thankful that God sent Florence to my life at that time, and we kept in touch through Christmas cards until her death. I have always remembered her kindness, but most of all that she saw me. She saw past the perm, the lack of physical prowess, and made my reality match my imagination. Thank you, Florence. You kept a little girl's dream alive. So that's an example from my life of someone who took the time and made the effort to be a light to me. And here goes the recent ones that I want to share. I'm keeping an eye on the time too. As most of you know, 2020 was not only the beginning of COVID in the world, But 2020 was also for myself and my family the year that Bruce was diagnosed with cancer and died in July of that same year. During that dark time, carriers of light showed up as the heavy, dark wall stood before me, and I truly, and I say this truly, couldn't see the light. I said to Carrie one time, Jesus and I kind of broke up for a while. I knew he was there, and I knew he loved me, but I wasn't interested in talking to him, thank you very much. Or I just wasn't. I had that black wall. It was there, black as night, before me, no light. During that dark time, light carriers showed up as the heavy dark wall was there. Now, my wall at that time was grief, but that wall, our walls can be different. It can be betrayal, loss of other kinds, disappointment, mental illness, depression. Those are all dark, heavy walls. It's not just grief. It can be family dysfunction, disappointment, all kinds of things. Now, my children, I got to give a big shout out to my children. My children and their spouses and my grandchildren stayed with me with light and love as we made our way along a tremendously new landscape. Everything had changed. Everything changed. And I have to say, the first thing my children did for me was they gave me a seat at their table. And I went to my girls' places during COVID and stayed for a couple weeks at a time. I saw Matthew. We made it work that I could sit at their table. And I want to give a shout out to their spouses as well, because I don't know that all my kids know this, but every single one of their spouses came to me individually and said, "You are welcome here anytime for as long as you want." What a gift. So I go free, that I can go there whenever I want. But of course, I was in Collingwood, and so my children do not live in Collingwood. So during the time that this dark wall was there, not only did my children open their homes and tables, but my friends and family did too. My family here, my friends, opened their tables to me. I was welcome anytime. You know, one of the hardest things is learning to eat alone. That's difficult when you've always never eaten alone. And so they would welcome me to their tables, and I could eat with them. And I remember during COVID, there were friends that would sit in my cold garage on lawn chairs with their thermoses, and we would sit in social distancing so that I could have social contact. Some of them would come in their cars, and I'd stand on the porch, and they'd put their windows down, and we would talk to have that personal contact. I had my hair dyed on my deck. Couldn't get to the hairdresser, so someone said, "What can I do? What can I do?" I said, "You can get rid of this gray hair." So over she came. My garden was weeded, cut the grass. My girlfriends met me downtown. The meeting place was Giant Tiger, and we'd be masked up, and it was cold, and we would walk the downtown corridor. I went with my cat to my friends to stay for a week when the difference between the condo and the house selling. And there I was with my cat in hand and stayed there for a week, and they looked after me. Little lady down the road from me that I've known for a long time, it was Christmas Day during the worst of COVID, and I had come home from Pamela's and my daughters because they were going to shut everything down again, and I knew driving that far, if they shut the washrooms down, I was in trouble. So I had to come home before Christmas morning started. So I'm in the house, and the wind's blowing, and the snow is flying, and I see this light at the end of my driveway, and it was Ruth. And she had her pole and her light and Christmas dinner in her hand. And she couldn't get down by car. I said, "You walk down the road?" "Yep, here's your Christmas dinner. You might have to heat it up," she says. So those are the kinds of things that happened to me during that dark time. The other thing was I had a lot of people that would just sit with me in my pain. There was no judgment. And I want to say this to everybody. It doesn't matter what your darkness is. There's no checklist for it. You don't go through, "Oh, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. I should be better now." Grief or disappointment or betrayal is not a condition, it's a place. It's where you're living. It's a place. And there's no way that you're going to get out of that place by checking off to-do list or for even taking a course. Yes, all those are good things. But you have to have light coming in for you and with you. So I had so many people that I could call, and some of you were some of them. When I was just feeling I had to talk to somebody, and usually at night, I could call. And there was a light there for me to at least just say, I'm feeling really badly tonight, and I just need to cry. And I need to cry with somebody. So they let me cry. Another thing a light bearer does is they take them with you. And I have an example of this. Bruce died in July. And I have 3 friends, and we always went to a cottage in the summertime. And it was coming up in August. And I said to them, I can't go. I said, I just can't go. And so they said, well, we understand, and if you can't go, and that's okay. But, I said, well, I just can't commit to it. So they came to me. You can come with us. You don't have to bring any food. Just bring your bathing suit. If you get in the car and we get halfway to the cottage and you want to go home, we'll bring you home. If we get in the boat and we're halfway over the lake, we'll bring you home. If you only stay an hour, we'll bring you home. And of course, that freed me up. I knew I could get home if I had to. I wouldn't be disappointing anybody. So they took me to the cottage, and it was a real balm for me of Gilead to just be away from everything and with friends who understood and gave me such light. So to be a light bearer, you have to show up with no judgment. That's hard for us. We've got our preconceived ideas how people should do something. We really do. Like, you should be over this by now. Like, why is this taking you so long? I think that it'd be a good idea if you were to, go and do something else. Or, and they don't understand. You have to understand that people are there in that dark place. And I know most of us have been there at some point. And you can understand, please don't bug me about it. Don't bug me about it. Just come and see me. Just be with me. Stand with me. Cry with me. Just do that. That's really what I need. Jesus walked with his disciples for 3 years, guiding them in their mysterious journey of faith, teaching them to see, hear, and to help others that they met along the way, to show the others the light. And being a light bearer is a lifestyle. It's not a checklist. It's a lifestyle. You give light because that's what your style of life is. And I want to say something else, and that came to me as I was preparing this, was that, you really don't have to be educated or have great abilities or take a course to be a light bearer. You just have to show up. You have to show up with no judgment. You have to show up with love and grace and with a way of getting them out or bringing them out or coming to them. You don't have to be educated. Don't have to go to seminary. Bruce told me that most of what he did in chaplaincy had nothing to do with seminary. Nothing. It had all to do with people-to-people contact. And I was thinking about T-shirts. Do you ever notice, like everything that people do, they have a T-shirt for it? Well, if I was wearing a CrossFit T-shirt up here, I got that from the Sally Ann. I'm not in CrossFit. Never have been, never intend to be. I'm not a CrossFit person. I could wear Boston Marathon on my T-shirt and say, and people are going to know, yeah, right, well, where did she get that T-shirt? We know Nancy didn't go in the Boston Marathon. So it's not an identity that you wear and say, I am a light bearer. It's your lifestyle. It's what you do every single day. And on Bruce's bench, memorial bench at the near the elevators, his favorite saying is on that bench. And his favorite saying, he said it to our kids, he said it to our grandchildren, he said it to me, he said it to other ministers. Well, all we have to do is listen to God and do what he says. That's what we have to do. Listen to God and do what he says. And before I leave you today, I've got a couple minutes left. I want to tell you, this is very personal, but I'm going to tell you the story because I think it's important. Bruce was a light bearer. Anybody that knew him knew he was. And I've heard many, many stories about him that I knew nothing about, that people have come and told me that what he did in their lives. But I'm going to tell you one. Bruce's hair was an issue. He had big bushy hair and all that. And it was always kind of hard for him to find a hairdresser that I liked. So he found this young girl that was a hairdresser. And he went, and I said, I like that. It looks good. Looks good. Yeah, you don't look like a Q-tip. You look good. And so he kept going back to this girl, every 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And I know that he really enjoyed being with her. He found her funny and a kind of a bit of a wild child. And so he didn't tell me too much about her, except that she was a single mom, that she had a couple of children, and she drove in from Owen Sound to a small little salon that just she was in, and she would do hair 1 day a week. About 3 weeks before Bruce passed, he was sitting on the back deck, and he said to me, I'm going to get my hair cut. I thought, oh boy, with all we got going on, that seems so unimportant. But anyway, he said, so I'm going to give her a call. I'm going to set up a time with her to get my hair cut. He said, I can't stand it. Look at me. I said, okay, go ahead. So he made an appointment with her, and he, on his way out, he said to me, and I'm going to the bank. I said, okay, and I knew what that meant. I knew what it meant. I knew that he was going to do something. So he came home, his hair looked good, and he said, I did speak to her, and I told her that would probably be the last time I would see her, and so that was that. After the death notice went out in Fawcett's, about 3 days later, a van came driving into my driveway. I was sitting on the porch, and a girl got out, and she, I have lots of tattoos, those of you that know me. I hide them at church, of course. But she came out, she had a sleeve, she came out, and I thought, I don't recognize her. And she said to me, and she had food for me. And she said, hi, I won't say her first name. Hi, I've come because I want to tell you some things. And I said, she said, I'm the girl that cuts Bruce's hair. I said, I've heard so much about you. And she said, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you about the difference that he made in my life. And I said, she said, I am so messed up. And she said, he let me talk and talk and talk and talk. And she said, he didn't interrupt me. He just let me talk and talk. And then she said, and all he wanted to talk about was you and the family and his grandchildren. And he always told me, you're such a good girl. You're doing your best. And you have those 2 kids, and you're doing your best. You're doing a good job. And she said, do you like your hair? And he always said to her, as long as Nancy likes it, I can keep coming back. But as soon as she says, I have to make a shift. She's really fussy about it. Anyway, so she told me that. She told me what Bruce had said to her, as long as I liked the hair. But she said to me, she said, he made such a difference because I felt like someone understood who I was. And then she said, and he did help me out too. I said, I know. She said, well, did you know? I said, yes, I know. I don't need to know any more than that. I never looked at how much he helped out. I didn't look at any of that because Bruce and I understood one another. When we felt something was right, we never stopped each other from doing it. But there she came back. He gave the light. She came back and gave me the light. And that's what this life is all about, isn't it? So should we pray together just about that right now? Let me see. No, there's something in between there. First of all, we're going to do Shine, Jesus, Shine. And I'll let Deb do that. I'll come back up. Thank you very much.